What if the most powerful weapon on Earth wasn't a weapon? What if it could think, feel, and decide who deserves to win? What if the United States military had Mewtwo? Because if that ever happened, war wouldn't just change, it might end. Or worse, it might become impossible to stop. See, Mewtwo wasn't born, Mewtwo was made. A genetic experiment built from the DNA of Mew, designed to create something stronger than anything nature could produce. And it worked too well, because Mewtwo didn't just gain power, it gained awareness. It understands its existence and who created it. And in almost every version of Mewtwo's story, that realization leads to one thing: rejection. So right away, the US military doesn't just have a weapon. They have something unpredictable, something that can question orders, something that can say no. Mewtwo would break war as we know it. Let's put Mewtwo into real-world terms. Forget Pokemon moves for a second. Imagine a single entity that can appear anywhere on Earth instantly, disable entire military bases without physically being there, read the thoughts of enemy commanders before they act, and destroy infrastructure with no visible attack. That alone would already make it the most powerful military asset ever created. But it goes further, because Mewtwo doesn't rely on supply chains, it doesn't need fuel or rest. There are no logistics, no weak points, no home base to target. And every modern military strategy is built around systems. Communication systems, transportation systems, weapon systems, and Mewtwo ignores all of them. Mewtwo doesn't fight systems, Mewtwo bypasses them. And that's what makes Mewtwo fundamentally different from anything humanity has ever built. You can't prepare for something that doesn't follow the rules. Now here's the scary part: Mewtwo's power. Let's actually talk about what Mewtwo can do, because this is where things go from powerful to unmanageable. Its core ability is psychic manipulation, which in real-world terms means lifting tanks like they weigh nothing, crushing aircrafts mid-flight, and freezing entire groups of soldiers in place. Then there's Psy Strike. This isn't just an energy blast, it's an attack that bypasses physical defense entirely. Armor doesn't matter, distance doesn't matter. If you're targeted, you're hit. Then Mewtwo has moves like Shadow Ball, which is a condensed energy capable of mass destruction, Aura Sphere, which is an attack that literally can't miss, Recover, so if there was any damage to Mewtwo from other armies, Mewtwo can heal himself, Barrier, creating defensive shields against incoming attacks, and Teleport, instantly repositioning anywhere on Earth. Now combine all that into one being, what do you get? Something that can't be pinned down, can't be reliably damaged, and can't be outmaneuvered. And worst of all, something that learns. Because every time Mewtwo engages with a threat, it gets stronger, smarter, and better at dealing with it. So let's address the elephant in the room. Is Mewtwo more powerful than a nuclear weapon? In raw instant destruction, no. A nuclear bomb still wins in terms of large-scale devastation, but that's the wrong comparison because nukes are single-use events. Mewtwo is continuous. A nuke hits once. Mewtwo can attack again and again and again. And instead of leveling a city, Mewtwo could disable every power grid in a country, collapse financial systems, remove leadership structures instantly, and do it all without collateral damage. No fallout, no radiation, no warning. That level of precision is something nuclear weapons simply don't have. So while a nuke is more destructive in a moment, Mewtwo is more powerful over time. And wars aren't decided in a single moment. They're decided over time. And if Mewtwo really wanted to, he could do even more damage than a nuke could do over time. But here's where everything starts to break down: the control problem. See, the US military depends on control. Every system, every soldier, every weapon operates within a chain of command. But Mewtwo isn't in a system. It's an individual with too much power. And individuals can disagree. They can question orders, they can refuse, and in Mewtwo's case, it has every reason to, and if it chooses to, there's nothing the US military could do about it. Because from Mewtwo's perspective, it's not being deployed, it's being used. And once that realization fully sets in, there are only two possibilities. Mewtwo continues cooperating or stops. And if Mewtwo stops, there's nothing in place to force it back into line. You can't threaten something stronger than everything you have. You can't punish something you can't contain. And you definitely can't control something that can read your mind before you even act. So let's walk through a scenario. The US military has Mewtwo, everything's going fine, Mewtwo's cooperating, operations are successful, and the US has effectively become untouchable. And then one day, something changes. Mewtwo stops responding, no warning, no explanation, just silence. Then, communications between bases start failing, satellites go offline, command systems stop responding because Mewtwo disabled everything. See, Mewtwo doesn't need to destroy systems to win. Mewtwo just needs to make them unusable. And since Mewtwo can read minds, every backup plan is already known, every contingency is already countered, and every move is predicted before it even happens. At that point, the military isn't fighting back, it's reacting. And reacting is how you lose. So what could the US military do to stop Mewtwo? What options are left? Conventional weapons? Too slow. Missiles? Easily avoided. Aircraft? Irrelevant. Cyber warfare? Doesn't apply. Even nuclear weapons become questionable, because you'd have to locate Mewtwo, launch before Mewtwo reacts, hit Mewtwo before it teleports, and then hope it doesn't survive. And if you don't feint Mewtwo, or in this case, kill it, Mewtwo's only gonna get more angry and more powerful. So there's no strategy, it's just gambling. And if you lose that gamble, you've escalated against something you already couldn't beat. Now, how would this impact the global scale? Let's zoom out for a bit. The moment the US reveals it has Mewtwo, the world changes immediately. Countries like China and Russia wouldn't see this as a technological breakthrough. They'd see it as a humongous threat, because it is. This isn't just military superiority, it's complete imbalance. And when global power becomes unbalanced, instability follows. You'd likely see emergency alliances forming overnight, massive funding into cloning programs, attempts to create countermeasures, maybe even aliens coming out to fight, and possibly even preemptive action. Because from another country's perspective, waiting is losing. The longer Mewtwo exists under US control, the less chance anyone else has to compete. And this leads to an arms race problem, the worst case scenario for global stability. But not a nuclear arms race, a biological super weapon arms race. Countries wouldn't just try to match Mewtwo, they'd try to surpass it, which means more experiments, more creations, more things that might not be controllable, and now instead of one Mewtwo, you have multiple entities with similar power. That doesn't stabilize the world, it makes it exponentially more dangerous, because now it's not just about control, it's about who loses control first. So is there any way to stop Mewtwo? Realistically, there are only a few possibilities. An equal force, and truly what's as powerful as Mewtwo. Psychological intervention, which would have to convince Mewtwo not to act out, and then there's self-limitation, which is truly in God's hands. Mewtwo would have to choose not to escalate anything. But that's it. No weapons, no tactics, no guaranteed solutions to stop Mewtwo, just variables you can't control. So honestly, we're lucky the US military doesn't have Mewtwo. Because if we did, at first, it would look like the ultimate advantage. Total dominance, complete control. But the deeper you go, the more it starts to look like the biggest risk in human history. Because the real problem was never power, it was control. And if we know anything about Mewtwo, Mewtwo can't be controlled.